In today's show, we're here live on YouTube answering your fantasy basketball questions. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon today to get started. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. We're here again, joined in the darkness up in Canberra. It's pitch black up there. Adam King is here in his poison ivy-like lair of plants. Welcome, Kingy.
Morning, mate. Yes, it is. It is getting dark. We're getting into winter, and I like it. I like winter.
Why do you? Okay, so let's start the show off. Why do you like winter?
Because I hate being hot.
I hate being hot as well, but I also don't like winter because I don't like I'm a warm-blooded man and I'm always hot, and I don't like walking out in winter with shorts on and sandals on and t-shirts. Aren't you cold? Like, no. If I was, I'd be wearing a jumper. So I'd prefer to avoid those interactions of people telling me how cold I should be feeling. So I like it in summer where I can walk around with no shoes on and nobody actually cares about it. But there's my rant on people telling me how I feel. We're here to ask people how they feel about fantasy basketball, I guess. I don't know. We're going to answer questions from you guys. Hope you guys are all in here in the chat, ready to crack on with some questions. Finesse Kid starts off with a question about Talen Horton-Tucker. Can we attribute Talen Horton-Tucker's subpar last few games to foul trouble? Richards, Dennis Smith, or Dort, are they worth picking up due to their favourable schedule? What do you think about Horton-Tucker and his recent production, Kingy?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, I think foul trouble has had something to do with it, but I think part of it is just that it's Talen Horton-Tucker, and we've seen this from him for years, that he's good for a week and then he does nothing, and so I think it's more to do with who he is. Are these guys worth picking up due to their schedule? Richards, Smith, I think they're on a back-to-back.
Yeah, they've got 3 and 4 to end the week.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, very different. Richards obviously very different in terms of what he brings. I've just recommended one of my mates who's in his final to drop Gobert, pick up Nick Richards for 2 days. Dennis, yeah, look, I mean, I'd consider all of those guys, probably.
It's 50% extra games, right? So it's 2 games for Horton-Tucker, 3 games for these other guys. And, like, yes, there was a game where he got 21 minutes and he had 5 fouls, and the game after that he played 25 minutes and had 4 fouls, and that's part of it. But he still had 11, 4, and 7. He still had 10, 6, and 4 in those games. They weren't disaster games by any stretch. But at this point in the season, if you want to get an extra game in, get an extra game in. Like, Dennis Smith might play 30 minutes a night for the next 3 games. He might play 27 minutes a night. But Horton-Tucker might also play 27 minutes a night. I don't know what's going to happen with Mark Williams and Nick Richards, but I think at this point, when you're talking fringe players, which is exactly what Horton-Tucker is, like, get an extra game in. Like, that's all you need to really worry about, I think. Aria. Hey guys, I just saw the report on Brunson. Is the hand sprain something to worry about and can quickly go on another run? The report is that Jalen Brunson is questionable for today's game with a hand sprain. Seems to have come out of nowhere. We haven't seen anything about this. Sure, it could be an issue, but they do not play again this week after today. So I wouldn't be rushing to add Emmanuel quickly so I can pick up 3 zeros after today's game. If I've got the ability to add him today, no worries. Right, there is a possibility, but there's also a possibility that he plays sub 20 minutes like he did yesterday and was dreadful. Right, that is a huge possibility too. But if Brunson's out and he starts, we love it. The problem is that there's no long-term appeal in that. Like, it's just, by the time that 3 games, or for 3 days with no games off, Brunson might actually be healthy. You've wasted an ad that might not even pan out in the first place. It's fine, but I wouldn't get excited is more my point there.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if you've got unlimited streaming opportunities, if there's no cap on your league, then sure, add quickly for today, drop him, grab someone else for the rest of the week. But if you've only got one move left or something for the rest of the week, then I probably wouldn't do it.
Jules says he just heard about Lauri Markkanen's injury from last night. Do you think it's something to be concerned about? Yes, I do. He apparently, according to Sarah Todd, who's a Jazz reporter, said he's been dealing with his hand issue for a while. And then last game, we could really see it flare up. And it's really important to note a few things, and this is something that you do from recording 3,500 plus podcasts and covering this league the way I've done for the last 10 years, is that when you see that happen during the game, he's in obvious pain, but then after the game, the coach and the player, when a team is sort of on the, are we tanking? What are we doing with draft picks? With 2 weeks to go in the season, when they're making a significant point about it, X-rays were clean, but we'll see how it feels. We'll see what sort of pain he's going to be in. We'll see how it goes. That to me is it's a slight nod to there's going to be some games off here with this. Same as the back injury. Yeah, he copped a really hard hit in the back against the Thunder, and just some days it just gets too much for him. When they're talking like that, just sowing the seeds out there, that's what you get worried about. I'm not saying that it's not broken, obviously, but throwing that sort of stuff out there as the way that they are doing it at the moment with Markkanen is sort of just laying a bit of groundwork, I think, for some upcoming absences would be my guess.
Yeah, I think there's good reason to be worried here. He was in pain. I mean, I watched the game. You could see that he was. Oh yeah,
it's legitimate.
It's not a fake thing. They've already got Clarkson, Sexton probably both done for the season. So I think he misses time here.
I would be shocked if he doesn't miss any games. I don't know if it'll be the next game, but he's going to miss some time. It would be my guess with this injury. We'll just find out where it is. But they don't go out of their way to make points of those sort of things unless they're just sort of subtly giving you the nod that we're not sitting him because he's resting, but there's a huge problem here. Like that's what they do. Whereas in the opposite way, if you're competing, teams hide these injuries all the time. They won't tell you anything about it. And after the season, actually, I played through the season with 3 fractures in my deck and a broken toe, and no one knew about it because they're trying to hide it from their opponents. Not that you could hide that injury necessarily, but that's the different approach that you need to be aware of. Cena says, championship is next week. I'm thinking about making a move to pick up Trendon Watford for 4 quality games next week. Thoughts? Well, I think you should have already done it, Cena. I think as soon as we saw Jerami Grant go out again, and even before we heard that confirmation, and as soon as I told you that I don't think Jerami Grant's playing again this season, you might want to go and grab Trendon Watford and do not hesitate a single second. What do you make of the Blazers? This was transitioning because I know you're going to agree with me on Watford, Kingy, but what do you make about the other stuff with Shaden Sharp, who was excellent yesterday, Cam Reddish, who stunk? What are we doing with any of these guys?
Well, I think they've finally figured out that Reddish shouldn't be starting, which is good. It took him a couple of weeks. Sharp looked pretty good. It makes sense to give him minutes. Let's see what he can do. Watford has looked pretty good, which from memory, he did this exact thing last year.
And then he got hurt.
Down the stretch, yeah. So in terms of Grant, Simons, probably done for the season. Lillard, I don't know. He probably wants to play. They're probably leaving it up to Lillard a little bit. I think whether he wants to.
He's done next week.
It out.
He's finished next week. I don't know what day, but he's finished next week.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of Watford, I added him. And I'm holding him. And I'd be looking at him, probably at Shaden Sharp as well. Matisse Thybulle. Be looking at him.
I don't think anything changes.
For defense, but
I think nothing changes for Thybulle. He might get an extra couple of minutes, but he's not all of a sudden turning into a 15-point per game scorer. Who's getting 6 assists. He's going to do the same shit, but instead of playing 24 minutes, he might play 27. Basically, literally what we saw yesterday, where he had 6 points, but he had 2 steals and a block. That's what he does. Yeah. He's very much like what Jared Vanderbilt does. The scale-up ability of his game just isn't there. You just get a couple of extra minutes on the minutes floor and even minutes ceiling, which is useful, obviously. But I'm not expecting him to turn into something that he isn't. Today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. The all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya, 2023 Nissan Ariya. They're bringing you the most electric player of the week, and it'd be easy for me to say it's Nikola Jokic, who's been the number 1 player in fantasy this week, or Joel Embiid, who's been the number 2 player, but that's the same stuff every week. How about we give it to the big guy in New Orleans, Jonas Valanciunas, the number 3 ranked player over the last week in fantasy. The power, the elegance, the beauty of Jonas Valanciunas' game after being a dud all season. He has really turned it on at the right time, whereas Nissan's 2023 all-new, all-electric Ariya turns it on all the time. The 2023 Nissan Ariya packs pin-to-your-seat power and premium intelligence all in one EV. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. The EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. I have a question for you, King, that's not related to basketball. I'm sure people know what it's going to be. That car company, do you call it Nissan or Nissan?
Nissan.
That's people say, well, you should be pronouncing it the right way. That is literally how the company in Australia calls it, isn't it?
Yep.
That is their ads. All new Nissan Pulsar. Like, all right, like cool. Like I don't know why they do it that way, but that is how they call it. And that brings me to another point. I've been listening. You listen to other podcasts, King. You don't just listen to me. I know that. You listen to other podcasts. But it's this ad for the Jordan movie coming out, the Air movie that's coming out. Mm-hmm. It's on podcast, and there's an Australian guy for Australian targeted ads advertising it, and they're going through hear the full story of Nike. Like what? Why is this an official ad? Why are they pronouncing the name wrong? I know a lot of people in Australia do call the company Nike, which is stupid. The official company doesn't call it that here. But why is the ad calling it Nike? I was stunned. Anyway, that is a complete aside. But he's going, yeah, the full story, Air by Nike. You don't call it Nike, do you, King? Otherwise, I have to kick off the show right now.
I do not. When I was a kid, I did.
Same.
Because I went and got a pair of Nike Air shoes.
Same.
But yeah, I haven't for, I don't know, 30 years or long time.
All right. Liam Lynch-Bell. I remember you predicted that teams out of championship contention would be wacky with their rest days and fake injuries. Is this what you expected? Oh, no, Liam. Oh, no. It's getting worse. This is nothing. It has started a little bit here. This is nothing. Wait till next week. This is why I told you guys that I would end my leagues, and I did end my leagues on March the 19th, because we saw a couple of things. Bogdan Bogdanovic, shifty. The Spurs for the last 3 months, weird stuff. Everyone else, okay. And now it's happening. Jerami Grant, Anthony Simons, Lillard next week. There's going to be so much stuff going on in the next couple of weeks. This is the tip of the iceberg, and everyone's going to be, it's not that bad, man. I just want more fantasy basketball. I'll just play through the end of the season. We'll talk about it next week. And it's not going to be great, is it? But let's go to this one. Matt Reeder, do I feel that Beal or DeRozan's seasons are over? What do you think about Beal and DeRozan, DeRozan left the game yesterday, and Beal was a weird early, late scratch. He just didn't play out of nowhere with knee soreness.
Yeah, the Beal one was weird. As you said, there was no indication that he had anything going on. It just came out of nowhere. So the Beal one, I'm not sure. DeRozan, this is something he's been dealing with for quite a while. I think you mentioned it yesterday, about his free throw issues, and there's something going on there. Like a guy who's that good a free throw shooter for so many years doesn't just start not hitting free throws for no reason.
It wasn't like he was terrible. Just he wasn't going at 88. No. He was going at like 74, 76. Yeah. Well, that's your big strength, mate. Like, why are you missing one out of every 4 shots?
Yeah, it's weird. It's something that I potentially think could be going on with Jamal Murray as well. His shots have been off a little bit. Could be he's dealing with an injury. But yeah, look, DeRozan, season's over. I'm not sure.
I would doubt it.
The Bulls are pretty trashy though, but I don't think they shut him down. And Beal, honestly, I have no idea, but it wouldn't surprise me with the Wizards.
Debut Ballers says, is Bogey, and that's Bogdan Bogdanovic, a drop, given him playing in both back-to-back yesterday was an anomaly? Why is it an anomaly? Because he's playing both back-to-backs now. That just, to me, means he's going to play both back-to-backs moving forward. That doesn't mean it was an anomaly. Anyway, but yes, he's a drop, because when DeJounte Murray plays, he plays 22 minutes a night, and it's not really worth it. Like, it's fine to stream in, but it's not really worth it. But what do you make here of the other one, Sandro Mamakilishvili, Kingy? Do you drop him for a streaming spot? He was quite good in that back-to-back, even coming off the bench. And they've got 2 more games this week. What do you make about the value for Mamu the rest of the season? Or the rest of this week, even?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on the Spurs there, and their rotations are weird. They're resting players every second game, except for Mamakilishvili. He seems to be playing every game.
Yep.
He's starting when Collins is out. He's playing 20, 22 minutes when Collins is healthy. Yeah, look, I like it. I've got him in my dynasty team, so I mean, my season's over, so it doesn't really matter. But I think he's doing enough to be held in a 12-team league at the moment.
With 2 more games left this week, I do think so as well, considering like he played 28 off the bench last game. He started the game before and played 25, which makes it even weirder. But there's going to be ups and downs here, so I think you've got to get minimum 17 out of him. There's going to be... Look, they play Friday, Sunday. Wouldn't be shocked if Collins sits one of those with a fake bicep injury or something. There's weird stuff going to happen, so I don't mind a hold on him. Johnny Schneider says, what is Dayron Sharp's floor? His floor is 0 minutes. That is a distinct possibility that he literally doesn't play. He was great last game. He played 8 minutes the game before that, and he didn't play for 4 consecutive games prior to that. So the floor is literally 0 minutes. And while it's great to have 3 quality games coming up, which the Nets do, and there's a possibility they rest a bunch of guys on the Saturday, Sunday back-to-back, Sharp could also play 0 minutes. So that is it's a huge upside, I think, with 3 games and his ability to be a big rebound, field goal, block guy. But man, the floor is pretty risky, Kingy.
It is, yeah. And the Nets need to keep winning too. So, I mean, they might look to rest some guys, but it's not like the Spurs or the Pistons or the Rockets or Pacers who are just playing Canadians. They need to win. So I wouldn't count on them resting anyone. So, yeah.
David G says, do you think Nick Richards is still a must roster in 12-team leagues? If there was any time to have him as a must roster, it would be right now. They've got 3 games in 4 nights. I don't think Mark Williams is coming back this week, but this is like, even if it's just for the next 2 days, they play Thursday, Friday, and there's like 2 teams, I think, that do that. So if there was any time to roster Nick Richards, it's absolutely right now. And I think that he is a must-roster player. The schedule works in his favor, and I don't think Williams is coming back. So, yeah, like I don't even need to ask your opinion on that, King, because I don't even think that there is a debate, really. Here's a question from old Doug Otto. What range do I think Jalen Williams, the Bronco, will go in drafts next season? I don't like to answer these questions, Kingy, but I know you're a big fan of, like, let's do extraordinarily early mock drafts. You always ask me to participate. I go, there's no way. I'm not doing them. I'm not doing a mock draft in May, Kingy. I refuse. But I know you love doing them, so you answer this question.
And I will continue to ask. Where do I think he will go in drafts? Ooh, it's hard to know at this period. I mean, I think I don't even know what he's been over the last month. He must
like 40th or something.
50, top 40. Yeah, okay. So I wouldn't be going that high on him. I think he'll definitely go top 100.
Oh, without a doubt.
Probably, I don't know, maybe 70 range. Yeah, it's hard to know, obviously. And yes, I will be getting some early rankings out in the next couple of weeks.
Of course you will. I won't be.
No, you won't be. So yeah, look, I would probably say in the 70 range, 75 at the moment.
Over the last month, the Bronco is 21st.
Yep.
Over the last 2 months, he is 31st. That's a decent sample size. That is 24 games. That's great. Okay, so that makes me think he'll go top 50.
He might go top 50. I'm thinking more where would I have him, because Chet's got to come in,
and maybe another draft pick,
and another draft pick potentially. Yeah.
That will be very, very interesting to see what that team ends up doing this season, but also how things go for them next season.
I do like that question though.
Yeah, of course you do. You love it. Is there a chance Kevin Durant returns next week? Buzzer Beater asks. I mean, there's always a chance, isn't there, Kingy?
There's a chance. I wouldn't count on it.
I wouldn't be expecting that. I would expect if he returns, it's in April, which is it's actually next Sunday. So maybe it sneaks in there, but I don't think that that'll be the case. I think we're looking at probably him and LeBron coming back around that 6th, 7th of April sort of a mark. Maybe that's where we're looking. I don't really think that he's going to be back earlier than that, but who knows? Look, we don't know. There is a chance, sure. I just do not expect that to be what is going to happen. I don't think there's really any news on that. Don Julio says, any news on Harden or Embiid? Is Melton an ad? Well, second part, yes, because he was great last game. They have a back-to-back, so I would be staggered if Harden plays both of those games, Kingy. The news on Embiid is that they expect him to play in that game on Friday, but it is a back-to-back, so you never know what's going to happen. So I'd say, how would you view this with Harden? Do you think that he's going to sit 1, 2, 0 of these games coming up?
At least one. I think he'll sit.
I
Possibly both of them. Embiid, I would lean into more that he may sit one, but he could potentially play two. I just think Embiid wants this MVP award, and so he wants to be out there. Is Melton an ad? Yes. I mean, he's been an ad for a week, and as we've seen, when any Harden, Embiid, any of these Sixers guys miss time, Melton is the ad.
The frustrating thing is he played 15 minutes, then 19 minutes. You go, what's this? And then 34, 33, 33 with Tucker out 2 games and Harden out 2 of those games. So that's all it takes. It's just one person to be out, then he flies up, and then he's useless in the games which makes it really hard in fantasy players, because it's hard to hold a useless player who's providing top 200 value. It's very hard to do that. But then when he goes off, and that's obviously really, really good. Today's episode is also brought to you by Ibotta. Groceries, school shopping, getting something for yourself. You know you're already doing it, so why not get some cash back with it? You can do that with Ibotta. You can earn cash back on every shopping trip. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods. Either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop and get your cash back. It's that easy. The average Ibotta user earns $120 a year in real cash back. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. You could use that cash back to buy a flight that you've been eyeing, a game you've been dying to go to or dying to buy, the fancy dinner that you've been craving. It's all there with Ibotta. A typical basket of groceries was over $50 more expensive at the end of 2022. And then at the start of the beginning of the year, due to inflation, you could earn 2.5 times that in cash back from Ibotta, or even more depending on how much you use Ibotta. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for saying the word Ibotta 20 times, and for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKED when you register with Ibotta. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use the code LOCKED. That's Ibotta, Ibotta, in the Google Play or App Store, and use the code LOCKED. Wow, said that name a few times. Let's go here and answer some more questions for the last part of the show. Is Paul Reed a pickup for the back-to-back? I don't know that I would do that. Like, yes, if Embiid sits, but I would put the chances of this tying back to the last question, King. I think that Embiid, like the chance of Embiid missing a game is maybe 10%. I would guess they're against the Suns and the Warriors, so decently tough opponents. I don't think that I'd want to waste an ad on Paul Reed. Unless we hear that Embiid's not likely to play, I wouldn't do that.
No, I don't think so. I think there's guys, other people, as we've talked about, there's all these teams tanking and all sorts of stuff going on. So I think you could find someone more assured. You
can. Joe says, is Jerami Grant a drop? It feels like the Blazers are thinking about shutting him down. I wonder where you might have gotten that from, Joe. The thing I said with Grant is, as I've mentioned before, I have been told that Jerami Grant is probably done. I have been told that Anthony Simons is likely done. All right, that's what I know. But I also know that that's not 100% guaranteed. But I also look at those two guys, Kingy, Grant and Simons, and go, if they do actually come back, are they actually that good? Like, Simons has been like 150th or so over the last 2 weeks. Grant's very up and down. If you do drop them to try and get other guys in, to try and stream other players in, and they end up coming back, does it actually bite you that much when you've taken that, especially if you're proactive and do it early and get like an extra 2-3 games in through that roster spot? I don't think it actually hurts you.
No, not really. I mean, both are obviously 12-team guys, but yeah, I think you can manipulate things so that picking them up or just streaming, there's not really a huge difference. Billups I just saw on Twitter before that Billups has said that they're both up in the air. Their availability for tomorrow is up in the air. So let's see what that means. But
it means they're out.
Well, yeah. And look, it's the fact he comes out and says stuff like that is stupid, because if they then miss the rest of the season, how was their availability up in the air unless it was like, it's also dodgy. Yeah, look, is he a drop? Yeah, I probably would.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, again, the longer you wait to do it, the less valuable it becomes. So if you're like, I'll debate, then maybe I'll do it after Friday when he misses there, then the value in doing it is lost because you haven't had a chance. If you had done it at the start of the week, you could have used that roster spot all week, got 5-6 games in, and then who cares if he actually comes back and plays one? It doesn't matter. But the longer you wait, the value in it drops down. Point blank miss, Shaden Sharp or Cameron Payne? Well, to me, it's very easily the bloke who played 39 minutes last game versus the guy that played 14. Campaign might get some starts, but Shaden Sharp probably gets a bunch of them. And even though Shaden Sharp's not a particularly good fantasy player in general, he flashed some stuff yesterday. But I'm just going to go with a guy who they're going to just, I think, feature quite a bit down the stretch here, Kingy.
Yeah, I'd go with Sharp. Although with Payne, I mean, I don't know what the Suns were doing yesterday because he looked really good.
It made no sense.
He played well, and they played him 14 minutes. So
they played Landry Shamet over him. Chris Paul was in foul. I don't know. Monty Williams, who had such a good reputation last 2 seasons, has made some insane decisions over the last 12 months, like starting with all the relationship issues with Ayton and Crowder to some of the coaching stuff he's doing. It doesn't make, like, why do we get randomly 20? Monty Williams comes out and goes, all right, we need really to get early into a rhythm defensively. We need this defensive issue. TJ Warren, can you come in the first quarter and play, my guy? Like, what are you doing? You haven't played at all, but can you come in to establish our defensive rhythm? Has this guy seen TJ Warren play ever? Like this is contrary to, unless you're lying bald-faced to the media, which is distinctly possible. But also when you watch the team and go, they probably need some defensive rhythm, and he says we need defensive rhythm, and then you go to a guy that provides no defensive rhythm, I think it's fair enough to question some of the decision making that happens with him. He's had a rough 12 months, I reckon. Janelle Scarlett, can we trust Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to play the back-to-back? This is coming up. It's the big pressure point, Kingy, Thursday, Friday, Thunder back-to-back. What do you say with Shai?
Well, I definitely, after what they've said in the last couple of days, I definitely consider it's possible that he plays in the back-to-back. I didn't think he would. They'd said that, pretty much come out and said that he wouldn't. He still doesn't look comfortable when he's playing. If you watch him, like he looks a bit hampered by the injury, but it could just be him as well. He could just be really tired because he's played a lot.
Sure he is.
So will he play? Can we trust it? I wouldn't 100% trust it, but I'd trust it a lot more than I did 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's almost like he had an actual injury and it's actually recovered, and he's and he's playing well. Look, I'd still put it at probably 50%, but I would have had it at 15%, like as you said a couple of days ago before Dagnall came out and said that. And they're honestly, I think they got the best record in the Western Conference over the last 3 weeks or something, the Thunder. I think they're 8-2 in their last 10, which is the best record out of every team. So that's pretty crazy. Okay. Dave says, is Mitchie Robinson worth a drop for Royce O'Neal? So let's just talk about this for a couple of things here, Kingy, because the Knicks have 1 game left this week, the Nets have 3. So on its surface, 3 versus 1, there's very few players who can overcome a 3-1 games advantage for the rest of the week. Very few. Tie that in with Mitchell Robinson maybe not even playing today, listed question with a knee issue. I think it's a relative no-brainer, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And Robinson's been trending down a little bit anyway. They seem to be a bit more comfortable rolling Hartenstein out there for 20, 22, 24 minutes. Robinson has been getting some blocks, some rebounds, but hasn't been scoring at all.
Nope.
So, yeah, absolutely, I'd do that.
I get this question every day. Is LeBron a drop? Like, yes, a month ago when he got hurt. Yes, he might come back, but why am I still getting this question now? I don't really understand why people have been holding on LeBron. And then we get news that I guess is marginally positive on him today. But then we get the question. I honestly don't understand it. But anyway, that's fine. He should be dropped.
He might come off the bench anyway behind Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves has been their 3rd best player all season, and it took until game 70 until he moved into the starting lineup. He's been awesome all year, and the role has been suppressed. Obviously, someone asked me a question earlier. I can't find the question in here, but I'll do it now. And say, is what Austin Reeves doing sustainable? Like, no, it's not, because he's averaging a 15 free throw attempts per game, and like peak James Harden wasn't able to do that. So that is going to cool off. But can he still be solid? Yeah, he can. Like, I think he's a good player, and they're finally giving him a role commensurate with his value on that team, which turns into fantasy value. So expect some. I think he's. If I look at it, he's been like top 30 over the last week or so, something crazy like that. He's not likely to maintain those numbers. But yeah, he looks pretty good.
He looks good. His passing game is really good. Made some really nice passes yesterday.
Hopefully, there's never a game where Dennis Schroeder plays more minutes than Austin Reeves the rest of the season, because they are a fair distance apart in what they provide to the Lakers. All right, Kuzma. I've had this question a few times as well. Is Kuzma a drop? He's got the ankle problem. Whereas Unseld Jr. says, yeah, it's pretty significant. The Wizards are in semi-tank mode, but they never tank, although we get random scratches here. They've got 2 more games this week. I'll be pretty surprised if Kuz plays them. Kingy, what do you think?
Yeah, why not? I probably would.
Again, it's very much back to the Jerami Grant question. What are you actually missing out on here? The longer you wait to do it, the less value you have. But like, is Kuzma that good that if he comes, you're not dropping Shai, where if he comes back and plays one game, you get 35, 7, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Like, Kuzma might do that. He might have 25 points on 25 shots, and he's not that good of a player. Like, he's not that level of a player that if you do miss out, it's going to bite you. And I just don't. I think you might get 1 game out of him this week, and it's just not enough for me to care. So yeah, move on. Let's have a look here. Is TJ McConnell a top 5 passer? No, he's not at all. I think I can name plenty of passers who are better. Off the top of your head, King, who's a better passer than TJ McConnell?
Well, Jokic, LeBron, Luka, Chris Paul,
LaMelo,
Giddy, Halliburton.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I don't think I'd have. McConnell's not a bad passer. I don't think he'd be in the top 20 passers. Rubio's a better passer. let's have okay. Tazwa said, "Can you please answer my question? I dropped Scotty Barnes for Nick Richards. A good move? Well, you've already done it. So, what do you want? I'll tell you, no, terrible move. You just lost everything. What are you doing? You've cost yourself whatever fantasy season you've got going on. But in all reality, it's 3 games versus 2 games. Barnes may not play on Friday. He's been up and down anyway. No problem with it. Like, again, it's 50% more games. 3 versus 2 doesn't sound like a big difference, but it's 50% more games. And that can be really important. And it might end up being more than that because Barnes might not play on Friday. So you've done it. You've made the move. You got the games volume in. Well done. That's I think what you need to be looking at this point in the season, Kingy. Like, we have to sort of start to ignore names a little bit and try to get that volume in.
Yeah, I think, as you've said, you're holding guys like Shea, like your top elite guys, but I think anyone that's sort of below top 40, we're okay to stream in and out.
And a lot of it's context as well. Roto League's very different story.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to win your semi-final matchup this week anyway? Then you don't do it. Then you look more to next week. But overall, if we're just looking do or die, what needs to happen in these next 3-4 days, then you've just really got to make those hard moves. And sometimes it can bite you the week after, but I'd rather get bitten the week after than not be there to get bitten at all. And there is your moment of motivation for today's show. Kingy, that'll do it for us. Tell people what you have cooking and what people can find that you do.
We've got a bit going on, actually. Sent out a tweet the other day. So at AdamKing91 on Twitter, FBIBasketball.com is the website. We've got playoff leagues launching probably in the next week, I think. A lot of dynasty stuff with Matt Lawson. He's got ranks, projections coming out. I've got player ranks, as I said, coming out just because I'm bored already. A lot happening over there. I'm doing the interviews with analysts. I've recorded 5 of them so far. So we'll be sort of releasing those once the regular season is done.
Looking forward to it, Kingy. Go follow Adam. Go check out Matt and B-Dub and Kingy's stuff over at FBI Basketball, guys. That'll do it for us today, Kingy. I'll see you later. Thank you for coming on again.
My pleasure. I'll be on again if you do another one.
I'm sure we'll have at least one more mailbag going. But anyway, guys, that'll do it for me today. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on the Odyssey app. If you're here on YouTube, you thumb it up and you leave your comments down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.